Praise the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace to everybody that's here to celebrate, to kick off the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, we need everybody to be quiet now. Peace to everybody that's listening on the phone. I had some reports that the phone wasn't working good, so maybe the brothers can check on that. But hopefully they can hear on the phone line. And peace to everybody that's watching on the internet. Like I said, to celebrate the Lord's Feast of Tabernacles, which again, like me and some brothers say, me and Brother Frank, Brother Ron, we like to play chess sometime. But we got a saying when we playing that you think this is a game. And people think this is a game with the Lord. They think the Lord got all this stuff in the Bible for no reason. They think the Lord is playing. But the Lord is serious to the utmost, and he's explained it all the way down to the end. And this feast is pointing us to the end, showing us how not only is the Lord going to take over the world, like we start off with the celebration of the memorial of the trumpets. When he blow those trumpets, he's going to take over the world. And he's going to save all those who on his side. And start with Israel first. He's going to gather his people home. And he's going to rule this world forever. That's why we tell people, and a lot of them just think we crazy, that eventually the people that serving God according to the Bible are going to rule the world. That don't make no sense to the average person. I'm telling you, you can tell all the presidents, the prime ministers, tell them all, we getting ready to run it in a little while. And we ain't gonna commit no terrorist acts because it's gonna be through the Lord, because people don't know what's on Jesus' agenda. They don't know that Jesus, or they don't believe what it's saying in the Bible, that Jesus is literally gonna come back and take over this world. That's what his second coming is about. It don't have nothing to do with a rapture, taking people to heaven at all. So we're going to get into this, because another name for the Feast of Tabernacles is the Feast of Ingathering. So the title is Israel's Gathering from the Four Corners. Israel's Gathering from the Four Corners. And we're going to start off in Matthew 24. Israel's gathering from the four corners, because that's who the Lord centered everything around Israel. Will it be some other people? A lot of the Israelites, they teach that only Israel is going to be saved. That couldn't be farther from the truth. It's going to be people of all nationalities, because this is going to make sense to a whole lot of non-Israelites before it's over with. Because it's right in the Bible. So before it's over with, you're going to have people of all nationalities listening to what we're talking about right here, now today. So it just started with Israel. By no means is the Lord limited to Israel. So I just titled the lesson, Israel's Gathering from the Four Corners, because actually, when it comes down to it, the Gentiles or Hamites or whoever from any other nationality that believe, they would be Israel too, because it's all, like Paul said to Ephesians, in Ephesians 2, they will be a part of the commonwealth of Israel. Because they believe and doing the same thing that Israel is doing. So, but the biggest problem with people understanding this, why don't nobody pay attention to this? Today is just another Wednesday to the world as a whole. See, but pretty soon there's going to be enough people doing this, the world going to have to acknowledge what we doing. Even though they're not going to like it, there's going to be enough people doing it where they're going to have to stand up and take note. Say, these people over here, a whole lot of them doing this now. Just a little while, there's going to be enough people doing it where they're going to recognize, even though they might not agree with it or like it, they're going to have to acknowledge it. Because the Lord is in the business of taking over this world, and he do it all by letting you know what he's doing first, by preaching. But the biggest problem in people knowing this, understanding this, is we've let people, the false preachers, like Jesus said, beware to be many of them in the average churches every Sunday. We let them make us think Jesus about something totally different from what's in the Bible. They separate Jesus from the Old Testament, not knowing that the New Testament say the same thing as the Old Testament. But they try to separate Jesus from the Old Testament, and they separate Jesus from Israel. Make you think he started a new religion called Christian. Look, Jesus was an Israelite. And he did the same thing that the Israelites did as a whole. He didn't follow the traditions that the Pharisees had, but he kept the law. He kept these feast days that we keeping right here today because he understood the importance of it. So he was an Israelite, and he was on a mission for Israel. That's why it's clearly written in everybody's Bible. Where Jesus said in Matthew 15, he said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of Israel. So how are we going to let a preacher make us think Jesus don't have nothing to do with Israel? That's beyond me. When he said it's in your Bible, read it when you get a chance, Matthew 15, starting at around verse 24, Jesus said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of Israel. But preachers then blinded people every Sunday and make them think Jesus don't have nothing to do with Israel. That's why we got all this other doctrine in the name of Jesus. Going to heaven. Israel don't matter no more. The law done away with. But they're not paying attention. So we're going to start off here in Matthew 24. And we're going to see exactly what Jesus is saying. Because he himself is pointing you to this great gathering. See, it's not going to be nothing like this. This is amazing why people that say they believe in Jesus, it's amazing that they miss this, because this is the biggest thing on the agenda. Jesus coming back, smacking this world upside the head, and running it forever, starting with his people Israel. Israel's gathering from the four corners. You ain't never heard of nothing like that. The Lord going to gather people that's been scattered in slavery from all over the world, because we know Israel is a black people. Not that color matters so much. That's just a fact. Israel is a black people. And you ain't never heard of such a thing, that he going to gather this lost people from all over the world and bring them back and make a holy, godly nation out of them to show everybody about God. That's what we starting off doing here. We here to show everybody about the God of this Bible. Okay, Israel's gathering from where? The four corners, Matthew 24 and 29. And let's see if what I'm saying in the title is true or not. Go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
See, you ain't seen a day like this. We ain't seen a day like this. This is going to be a day like none other, when the Lord starts to take over this world. The people that belittled God's magnificent plan and twisted up and made a bunch of lies and fairy tales out of it. A rapture to heaven. Don't have nothing to do with you going to heaven. Nothing whatsoever. You would never go up to heaven. Jesus in the business of coming back here and taking over the whole world. So he said here, immediately, see, it's going to be great tribulation. That's where the world is headed to. You can see the world getting more messed up as the days go. The world is getting messed up. But see, the Lord is heading them toward great tribulation because they need a headache, because they won't listen to him. So it's going to be great tribulation, but then at the end of tribulation, the Lord is intervening now. So what does it say? Immediately after the tribulation. That's the great tribulation. It told you at verse 21 of this same chapter. Of those days, what's going to happen? The sun is going to get dark. The moon not going to be shining. And the stars going to fall from heaven, it say. You ain't seen nothing like that, have you? This is Jesus talking. I see people say they believe in Jesus, but I beg to differ. How many of them talking about this? And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then what's going to happen? Verse 30.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
Now here come the Lord coming, and he's not coming to steal a few people and run back to heaven like he's scared. He's not coming to do that. He is coming for the long haul. He going to stay here and he going to rule with the iron hand. The Bible tell you that, Revelation 19, read that when the sky rolled back. It says the heaven going to roll back. He coming on the white horse and he going to rule the nations with a rod of iron. It say that in your Bible. So that's what he coming to do. We not mistaken by all the lies that people teach in his name. So he said, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. You're going to actually see him now. Right up there where we see the clouds at, we're going to see him. You're going to see the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Then what the nation's going to be thinking or doing.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn.
Oh, it's going to be a sad day. So, of course, they're going to be mourning. I thought they loved Jesus. Everybody should be singing hallelujah, come by y'all, and all that good stuff, right? No. They wasn't ready for this one. Even though we preaching it. We're going to be all over preaching it in a minute. It's just a matter of time. We preach them and we telling it to them and they still not going to believe it. They still not going to be prepared for it. That's the way it worked. He said, then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Go ahead.
And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
See, he ain't come now. People talking about going, but every way you read, he coming, right? You're going to see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. You know if you see him in the clouds, he done made it here now, right? You see airplane up in the clouds all the time, right? Well, he is here at this verse. They're going to see him coming in the clouds of heaven. How? With power and great glory. Let's see what he going to do. Go ahead.
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet.
There go that trumpet, which is why we just celebrated 2 weeks ago the great holy day called the memorial of the blowing of the trumpet that don't nobody acknowledge either. But they say they believe in Jesus, but Jesus telling you how it's going to end, right? With a great sound of a trumpet, he going to send his angels, and what are they going to do? Go ahead.
And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
See, they're going to gather together his elect. See, this is what the title of the lesson is, Israel's gathering from the four corners. That's what this great festival is about. The Lord is pointing you to what he's going to do at the end of time. He's going to gather his people back who've been scattered out. For disobedience, Israel got scattered out into bondage, into slavery. But God hasn't forgotten them. And Jesus just said they're going to gather together his elect. Who is elect signify? The elect is somebody that's chosen. Israel is God's chosen people. But we messed up and we've been scattered out. That's why James 1 tell you he wrote the letter. Paul wrote to the Gentiles because it was time for them to hear the word. James, he didn't write to the Gentiles his letter. If you read James, that's why it's more straightforward, straight to the point, because he know they would understand. He just went straight to the point, preaching about the law and everything. Paul kind of had to lead the Gentiles a long way to get them to the word because they was newcomers to it. James wrote straight direct. That's why he said point blank, faith without works is dead. You don't even have to figure out, well, I wonder what he mean about that. Hey, it mean what it say. Well, people want to play around in Paul's writing, he went kind of around the horn a little bit and act like you ain't got to do no works, but they don't want to read what James said. But anyway, James wrote to, James 1:1 tell you he wrote to the 12 tribes where scattered abroad. See? So that lets you know they were scattered then, but yet he wrote to them because he knew it was still significant and he knew this day was coming right here. Israel is scattered abroad, but Jesus said, now this is Jesus, right? He going to send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from where? The four winds. What do the four winds mean? That means the same as the title of the lesson, the four corners. Israel is scattered all over the world. From the four winds. Then he said from one end of heaven to the other. In other words, all over the world. He going to bring this people back. Well, let's make sure. Let's go back to the Old Testament because Jesus wasn't doing nothing but quoting prophecy, Isaiah 11. But he is the one doing it. And you're going to tell me Jesus don't have nothing to do with Israel now. And he's telling you what he's going to accomplish at his second coming, which is what this great festival is pointing us to. That's why it's not just called the Feast of Tabernacles, brothers and sisters. It's called the Feast of Ingathering. Because God's been planning to gather in his people who got scattered all over the world for disobedience. Isaiah 11. And we're going to let the Bible interpret itself because you might say, well, I don't understand what that four winds mean. We know it's talking about on the earth. Even though he said four winds of heaven, he's going to bring a heavenly kingdom to this earth. But we know it's talking about on the earth because he said he was coming in the clouds of heaven. He was on his way to the earth and he sent his angels to gather his people that were scattered all over the world. But Isaiah 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11. This is the prophecy part of it that Jesus was quoting. And we're going to see concretely who it's referring to when Jesus said his elect from the four winds of heaven. Isaiah 11 and 11. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
See, he's talking about the same thing, recovering his people that's left. Because he's going to save, he's making sure he saves some to bring them home in the end. But notice it said, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will set his hand again the second time. Because this is so marvelous, so great a thing that the Lord is getting ready to do. He compared it to the first great deliverance of Israel from slavery, which was out of ancient Egypt. See, this is how you know Israel, when they go home, it's not going to be something incidental. It's not going to be like you say, the Jews say they went home in 48 and they studied fighting the Arabs and all that stuff. Look, if Israel was at home now, it wouldn't be no more fighting. That's right. It'll be over with because the King of Kings will be running this earth. That's how it's going to be when Jesus comes. But anyway, when Israel get gathered, everybody going to know about it. It's not going to be incidental. Didn't we just read that the sky going to be getting shook around, the sun and moon getting dark, and the stars when he sent his angels with that great sound of a trumpet? You mean to tell me that didn't took place? Is that what the Edomites trying to tell us over there in the land of Israel? No, that ain't took place. So what happened in 48 don't have nothing to do with this. Everybody going to know when Israel go, because it's going to be the most miraculous thing the world has ever seen. He comparing it to Egypt when he split the Red Sea, beat Pharaoh upside the head first, beat him down to the ground, showed that he wasn't nothing but a normal man, even though he thought in his mind he was a god. That's why he was so hard for him to listen. God beat him upside his head till finally he said, "Uncle, I give." He finally, in the end, even though he chased Israel through the Red Sea, had his army chase him, in the end, he told Moses, look, you leave. Y'all leave. Get out of here and bless me too. Because he knew he was up against it. But I guess he went too far to turn back, so he ended up chasing him. But that's what the Lord did. That's how he accomplished that first great deliverance. So when we read here in Isaiah 11, verse 11, read it again.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time.
The second time. That's why he said the second time, because he compared it to Egypt. The only difference is it's going to be greater because Egypt was only one country where the Lord had to go get Israel from, right? But Israel is scattered where? All over the world. Didn't Jesus just say he going to send his angels with that trumpet? They're going to gather his elect from the four winds of the earth? That's all over. That's what the title of the lesson is, Israel's gathering from the four corners of the earth. So that's why it's going to be greater. It's multiple countries all over the world. He going to do this. So he going to beat the whole world down, not just Pharaoh and Egypt. The second time to recover this remnant. Now read verse 12 now.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nation.
He going to let the nations know who in charge now. Go ahead.
And shall assemble the outcasts of Israel.
There go Israel, who been cast out, right? And who else?
And gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
See, Israel, Judah is Israel too, but they separated into two identities, but he bringing them all back. He shall gather the dispersed. He said he shall gather the outcasts, assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah, which is also Israel. They are all Israelites. From where?
From the four corners of the earth.
The four corners of the earth. So we see what we said in the title, Israel's gathering from the four corners, is legitimate, isn't it? That's what, this is out the Bible, isn't it? But people don't believe the Bible. That's the problem. We've been listening to so many fairy tales, we don't know the truth when we hear it now. This is in your Bible. And if you can't just delegate it to the Old Testament and say it don't have nothing to do with the New Testament of Jesus, because Jesus said it in Matthew 24, didn't he?
Yes, sir. He
just used a different choice of words, but he said, send his angels to gather together his elect from where? The four winds of heaven, right? Isaiah had already said it. He said, from the four corners of the earth, east, west, north, and south. That's what we're talking about. All over the world. You can't get no clearer than this. And the Lord gave us this day, this festival, to recognize it well in advance. The Feast of Ingathering or the Feast of Tabernacles. Because you got to have, see, everybody got a homeland. So everybody got a tabernacle. Israel just have lost theirs. Don't even have a clue. That should make you think you're the only people really don't know where your homeland is. The real Israel. But now, go to Exodus 23. I'm sorry. Skip down to verse 15. I'm getting ahead of myself. Verse 15. Because we're going to see how miraculous this going to be when he do this gathering of the elect, which is Israel. And all other believers going to be with him from other nations. We're going to see how miraculous it's going to be. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea.
He going to destroy the tongue. That means he going to be drying up rivers like he did the Red Sea. He going to be drying up the waters again. Go ahead.
And with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it into 7 streams.
See, go ahead.
And make men go over dry shod.
See, he's doing the same thing. That's why he said a second time. The first time he split the Red Sea, brought them out of Egypt. This is the second time from all over the world. He's talking about splitting into 7 streams. And men going to walk on dry ground going to the promised land. Go ahead.
And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people.
See, it's going to be a highway for the remnant to get to the land. He's going to pave the way. Go ahead.
Which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
See, now he compared it straight back to when Israel came out of Egypt, didn't he? That's why he said the second time at verse 11. Nothing comparable to this, but what he did to Pharaoh when he brought Israel out of ancient Egypt. He said, like as it was to Israel, in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. So this is going to be one of the most miraculous things the world has ever seen. And you call yourself a Christian or believe in God and don't understand this or believe this at all. Something is wrong with that. But now, back up to verse 9, and we're going to see how great it's going to be, because he's going to have to conquer the world to accomplish this. Go ahead.
They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountains.
See, when the Lord do this, he's going to bring peace to this earth. Because he's going to kill and get rid of all the troublemakers. All the peace breakers, he's going to get rid of them. He's going to beat them down just like he did Pharaoh. And it won't be no hurt nor, they said not hurt nor destroy in all his holy mountain. Because that's where it's going to be centered at, in the Holy Land. See, this lets you know again, when Israel go back, Israel couldn't have went back in 48. And then you got some Israelite brothers that call themselves going back. But it wasn't time for them to go back. When you go back, the Lord going to take Israel back.
That's right.
That's why they've been catching more trouble over in the land of Israel than they was catching over here. Some brothers left here and went to the land calling themselves returning. And you still got the same people in charge. The Edomites still running it and running you, beating you into the ground. But you said you acting like Israel and went home. Look, a few people just done something foolish that they shouldn't have did. When Israel go home, it's going to be miraculous like you have never seen. Only thing comparable is Egypt. And it's going to be by the hand of the Lord. The Lord going to be coming in the clouds when it's time for this, right? Mm-hmm. So now, and then, once he do it, he said, they shall not hurt nor destroy on all my holy mountain. Why is that? Go ahead.
For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
See, everybody going to know what we know right here today. And everybody going to start to do what we doing right here today. That is celebrate the holy days that's in the Bible and get rid of all these fairy tale days that man has made up. Christmas and Easter, it's a fairy tale, I'm here to tell you. Don't have nothing to do with the God of this Bible. You can throw Thanksgiving in there too. Halloween, all of it. Some fairy tales, but the days that's in the Bible, you walking around with the Bible and you ignore them all. You should be ashamed of yourself. Get rid of the Bible. Don't front. Verse 10.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. See,
this show you is Jesus. Jesus is the root of Jesse. That's why he was a descendant of King David. Jesse was King David's father. That's why Jesus is called the root of David in Revelation. So again, we know Jesus is the one orchestrating it because we already read it for the New Testament Christians. We read it in Matthew 24, didn't we?
That's right.
So we know Jesus orchestrating it. He said he's going to send his angels with that sound of a trumpet to gather together his elect from the four winds. So we come back here to Isaiah. Isaiah said he's going to gather together Israel and disperse of Judah from the four corners of the earth. But we know Jesus is the one orchestrating. He is the root of Jesse. In that day there shall be a root of Jesse. Go ahead.
Which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek. And his rest shall be glorious.
Oh, it's going to be a glorious time of peace. That's what rest means. That's what the Sabbath is pointing us to, this time of peace. He said his rest shall be glorious right here on earth. Whose rest? This is talking about Jesus, the root of Jesse. Then notice, it said, to it shall the Gentiles seek. So you got some Hebrew brothers, Israelite brothers want to kill all the Gentiles. Well, say, oh, they ain't going to make it. God going to kill them all. That don't make no sense whatsoever. Here, you telling me no matter what a person do, they can be as righteous as they want to be. They can follow all the commandments that God gave Israel, but he going to kill them. Do that make sense? Look, it's going to be a whole lot of Israelites get killed before some Gentiles. The Bible lets you know that. Because Israel is stiff-necked in the first place. Even the ones talking that showing they stiff-necked. Look, this is the Old Testament telling you that the Gentiles going to seek them. Now, they twist everything up. Gentile don't really mean Gentile. That means some lost Israelites. You a lie. That don't make no sense. That's why I tell you right here, he's talking about gathering Israel, right? He made it clear when he was talking about Israel, the lost Israelites, right? Then he turned around right here and said, to it shall the Gentiles seek. That's the other people. Told you it wasn't just going to be Israel. Let's go to get into this. Exodus 23. That's just my introduction. Exodus 23. Now we're going to see that he set up the holy days. This great holy festival to remind you of this, to have you prepared for this. That's why people celebrated God's holy days. If they just did something simple like that, they would know his whole plan. They would know everything he's doing, and they wouldn't be bothered with these fairy tales that they paying attention to. When act like you ain't got to do nothing. You ain't really got to do nothing, but everything you doing was made up by a false god. And then they act like, well, if you doing that, you know, you really ain't got to do that stuff in the Bible no more. But if you doing it, that's okay. You know, you okay. But they really don't believe that. They really think you crazy. It's like you tell people on your job, you taking off for today, the Feast of Tabernacles. They think you crazy. They really do. Don't let the kids go to school and you keep telling the teachers there was a feast. They think something wrong with you. But they going to find out. They the ones in the Stone Age. Exodus 23 and verse 14. Exodus 23 and verse 14. Go ahead.
3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year.
See, the Lord gave you 3 festivals to keep every year. And he going to name, and this is the last one, the Feast of Tabernacles, but it got another name, which we've been hinting at, the Feast of Ingathering. That's why we saw that he going to gather his people from the 4 corners already. 3 times you keep a feast unto me in a year. Go ahead.
Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread.
That's at the Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's the first one in the spring. They go throughout the year. Go ahead.
Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou comest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty.
See, the Lord sent the first deliverance around the first festival. So he brought them out at the beginning of the year, because that was the beginning of his plan, when he brought Israel out of Egypt and did that to Pharaoh. But see, what he going to do in the end of time, he's sending around the festival in the 7th month. So the Lord is practical like that. So that's the first festival, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which we celebrated when the spring rolled back around the beginning of the year. Go ahead.
And the Feast of Harvest, the first fruit of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the Feast of Ingathering.
So now the Feast of Harvest, that's called the Feast of Weeks. That's in the summertime, which we celebrated before this one, in the summertime, also called Pentecost, which means 50, because you count 7 weeks and go to the 50th day, the next day. 7 Sabbaths, 49 days, 1 more day, make 50. It's also called Feast of Harvest. You only got 3 festivals that you honor God through the year. The Feast of Harvest, of the first fruits of thy labors which thou hast sown in the field. Now, what's the last one? And the Feast of what?
And the Feast of Ingathering.
See, the Feast of Ingathering. But now, you already know why it's called Ingathering, because God, he ain't talking about just crop. See, he's sitting around crops, but he's talking about people. God is omnipotent like that. He's talking about multiple things, because he's going to gather his people as we have saw at the end of time. And the Feast of Ingathering, which is what?
Which is in the end of the year.
Which is pointing to the end of the world, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
When thou hast gathered in thy labor out of the field.
Because that's what he going to do. He going to gather Israel from where? From the field of the world, from the 4 corners. Go ahead.
3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God.
See, the males couldn't get out of it. The woman might have had a condition where she couldn't go. She could have been pregnant and couldn't even make it. But the male couldn't get out. You have a woman could be having a baby today. I wouldn't expect her to be here today. She might want to be here. Or she could be in labor getting ready to have a baby tomorrow. It might not be the best thing for her to be here today. But see, the man didn't have no excuse, did he?
That's right.
He said, all your males shall appear before the Lord thy God. Now, go to Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16. Because this is called by 2 different names that's pointing to the same thing. Feast of Ingathering and also Feast of Tabernacles. Deuteronomy 16. Because if he gather you somewhere, you got to have somewhere for you to be gathered to. You got to be a tabernacle for you to go to. 16 and 16. Go ahead.
3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God.
This again, how you get understanding, you read about the same thing in different places. We know this is what we just read in Exodus 23, right? We know it's talking about the exact same thing. 3 times in a year, you're going to keep this feast. He said, all your males, that's where we left off at, right? Shall appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose. See, just like around this time, they dwelt in booths. Well, it's hard for us to do that, let alone do where you were supposed to do it at. That was going to Jerusalem. So we're doing the best we can do where we at. But it's all good. But we're going to have to wait till we get to the land to do it according to dot every I and cross every T. But God can recognize what we're doing right here. Just like Paul. He was a lot closer to the land back in those days, but he didn't make it to Jerusalem every year. He kept it where he was at. He tried to make it sometime. He was from the land, but he didn't make it back every year. So, but that's what he said. 3 times in a year, all your males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose. He gonna name the 3 again. Go ahead.
In the feast of unleavened bread. And in the feast of weeks.
See, that was called Feast of Harvest in the other place, but it's the same thing. He got alternate names. Go ahead.
And in the feast of tabernacles.
And that was called the Feast of Ingathering, right? Got an alternate name for it, but we know it's only 3, right? Go ahead.
And they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
Go ahead.
Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God.
See, go ahead.
Which he have given thee.
See, you contribute to make this happen. Everybody brings something to make this feast happen. You shouldn't want to be just coming empty. You want to make it happen. You want to bring something to the feast according to how the Lord then bless you and enjoy this feast and honor your God. But now, back up to verse 13, because we're going to get particularly into this one. We got 3. This is the last of the 3, Feast of Ingathering, or better known as the Feast of Tabernacles. Go ahead.
Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine.
Notice it was sitting around the ingathering. The gathering at the end. See, that's what it's pointing to. After you done gathered in your corn. So he said, you go observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. See, he made a distinction because when you go to the 8th day, he's going to take you to the 8th day. It's taking you to a whole nother place. You go from physical to spiritual. That's what he's really doing. But actually, it's the 8th day to this feast, the Feast of Tabernacles. Go ahead.
After that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine, and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast.
See, we rejoicing, but we know what we rejoice. See, people rejoice around Christmas and Easter. They rejoice, but they don't know it don't have nothing to do with the true and living God. Most of them don't even care, really. They ain't even thinking about God. The majority of people doing that stuff, especially Christmas, they ain't thinking about no God. That shows you it's of the world. Don't have nothing to do with God. But when you do this, you know you're doing it to honor the true and living God. You're going to rejoice. He said, thou shalt rejoice in thy feast. Thou and who else?
And thy son. And thy daughter.
You're going to have a good time. See, my kids did it all their life. And they even look forward to it now. My son was glad. They've been working him so hard at school. He was glad. He said, I ain't doing no homework. It's the feast. My wife was trying to make him study a little bit before the sun went down last night. He said, I'm getting, time off. But that's what he said. He said, thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son and thy daughter. Just like my daughter, she be planning stuff for the feast. See, that shows you people that said for years when we tell people you not Christmas and Easter is paganism and you shouldn't be celebrating that. We'd have people call us and say, oh, you can't take Christmas from the kids. It's a lie. You can take it from them. You gave them a lie, take it back. But it ain't like they ain't going to have no fun doing something, but you're going to be honoring the Lord in the process. They look forward to the feast. My daughter be making all kind of plans for the feast. Well, I want to get my video tape so me and my friends, we can watch that at the feast. But that's what he said here. You're going to rejoice who? Thou and thy son and thy daughter and who else?
And thy man servant. And thy maiden servant.
Everybody, go ahead.
And the Levite. The stranger.
Oh, who is the stranger? That's a non-Israelite, isn't it? That means it was non-Israelites back here, wasn't it? And you got Israelites want to kill all the strangers. That don't make no sense. Go ahead.
And the fatherless. And the widow that are within thy gates.
This is time for everybody to have a good time, to honor the God of creation for his magnificent plan, because it's going to be a glorious time when he implement what this feast is pointing to. Go ahead.
7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God.
See, it's all a solemn feast. This is a solemn occasion. It's not about, see, that's some garbage. People come celebrating a pastor's anniversary. That's some garbage. Ain't nothing solemn about that. They be trying to make it solemn. You know, you can celebrate, you want to celebrate your birthday or some other anniversary, that's fine, but it's not solemn. It's not a solemn celebration. This is about something serious, in other words. Even though we're going to celebrate, we might even have a little wine, but we're going to keep an eye on you wine bibbers. But now, it's a solemn occasion. It's about something serious, something special. 7 days thou shalt keep a solemn feast unto who?
The Lord thy God.
The Lord thy God. Go ahead.
In the place which the Lord shall choose.
See, this just kicked it off. Go ahead.
Because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thy increase.
Everybody want to be blessed, but they don't want to do nothing the Lord say do. Go ahead.
And in all the works of thy hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice.
See, we rejoice, and we got something to rejoice about, though. He said, you shall surely rejoice. And you got everybody else going to work, ain't thinking about this. They're ignoring the real time to rejoice. Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23. This one he spelled it out totally. All his holy days right here, including this one that we kicking off today, the Feast of Tabernacles. But we already know what it's about. We already saw Jesus hit the nail on the head about sending his angels with that sound of a trumpet to gather together his chosen people, his elect from the four winds. See, we already know what it's about, because we don't want you to do nothing not knowing what you're worshiping.
That's right.
Leviticus 23. Jesus told the woman, Samaritan woman in John 4, he said, you worshiping something, okay, but I'm going to tell you something. You worshiping you know not what. Then he turned around and said, we know what we worship. And I'm here to tell you, we know what we worshiping. Even though it's foreign to the majority of people around us, we know what we worshiping. Leviticus 23:1. We're going to read it here. We can read it all over the Bible. That's how we know what we worshiping. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Moses didn't make it up. See, people disregard the Lord's holy festivals, saying that they are Mosaic, or they belong to the Jews. Look, this is how you honor the God of creation. The Lord mentioned this. He brought this out to Moses, not Moses. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, what?
Speak unto the children of Israel.
About what?
And say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord.
Whose feast? The feast of the Lord. Why can't people get this through their head that that's who this belongs to and this is who you honor? They don't want to listen, but we're going to keep telling them anyway till they get mad at us. Go ahead.
Which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations.
These are solemn occasions, holy convocations. That's what we hear today. That's why we read the Bible before we do anything. That's what a holy convocation is about. It's about the Holy One. This is a holy day, so we dropped all our little stuff that we might deem as real important.
That's right.
We dropped all that because we know better. We know ultimately none of it don't mean nothing. This is what's important. He said, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Whose are they?
Even these are my feasts.
God said they're his feasts, not the Jews, not Moses. Go ahead.
6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest.
Now that's the first festival. Every 7th day we have. Go ahead.
And holy convocation.
Every 7th day. Go ahead.
Ye shall do no work therein.
No work is to be done. Whose is it?
It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
See, that's the regular time to get together and honor God. But now we're not here for that one. We're here for this one. Skip down. We'll go ahead to verse 4 and he's going to lead us into it. Go ahead.
These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season.
Now here are the ones in their season. We're going to skip to the season we're in. The season for the Feast of Ingathering or Feast of Tabernacles, and that's at verse 33. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
do what?
Speak unto the children of Israel.
Moses didn't make one iota of it up. He didn't make it up. The Lord told him to tell Israel about this. Go ahead.
Saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be a Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord.
See, you can keep up with it because the Lord's calendar is controlled by the moon. So 2 weeks ago was the new moon, the first day of the 7th month. That was the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. Then we waited 10 days and had the Day of Atonement. 5 more days, we're at the middle of the month, which I ain't looked outside, don't have to even look at it. I know it's a full moon because the full moon come in the middle of the month.
That's right.
So that's what he said. On the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the what?
The Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord.
See, the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days. See, he showed you that he going to complete things in 7 days. Then he going to take you to a new thing because then he added an 8th day of Tabernacles. He got one more day. But before you can start something new, you got to end the old, don't you?
That's right.
So he said, right here, if you just looked at that, if you stop reading right here, you would think it is totally after 7 days, right? Because he said 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. Verse 35.
On the first day shall be an holy convocation.
That's the day right here. We having a holy convocation as it is prescribed. Not something we felt like doing. See, you don't have to have a holy convocation on the rest of the days, except for the last day, the 8th day. But you should be recognizing and knowing it's the feast and it's a festive time throughout. That's why on the handout we give out with the lesson, we even got some scripture you can read each day to remind yourself. Even if you can't eat like you feasting all the time, you can remind yourself by reading some scriptures about it each day. So that's what he said. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. You should do what?
Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Because it's a Sabbath day, so you don't do no work unnecessary to you feasting and enjoying yourself. So we got people working around here. We got people that's cooking and going to be doing stuff, but that's okay because it's according to what's prescribed. Go ahead, 36.
7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
See, now that was the animal sacrifices, which all of it's good. God didn't do nothing that wasn't good, but that ceased for the time being. You got to do this at a certain place anyway. That need to be done in Jerusalem. You ain't supposed to do that any place. That need to be done as it was prescribed. So he going to put it back together when he come back and gather Israel from the 4 corners of the earth. He going to put it all back together. Show you exactly how to do it. But they all point to him anyway, because he is the sacrifice that paid the price for us. So he says 7 days you're going to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. See, each day they had a certain number to do. It was different on each day. The first day, in other words, you offered so much. The second day, you offered so much. The third day, you offered so much. And it went on and on and on. Till it climaxed even down to the 8th day. Because this goes to the 8th day. He's going to take us there now. 7 days, you're going to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Go ahead.
On the 8th day.
Oh, where'd that come from? See, it was, the Lord had it planned all along. On the 8th day. 8th day of what?
8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you.
See, on the 8th day. But what day? 8th day of what? It got to be Tabernacles, right? That's what the first 7 is, right? So on the 8th day of Tabernacles, see, he took you somewhere else. After he ended in 7, then he said on the 8th day, you shall do the same thing. You're going to have a holy convocation. In other words, you're going to climax it with a new beginning, really. That's what he's showing you. Go ahead.
And ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
You had an offering to do on that day. Go ahead.
It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein.
See, it's a solemn assembly on the 8th day. That's why we having an holy convocation today. You can feast the other days, 2 through 7, on your own. And you ain't necessarily, you should be mindful of the Lord, but we not ordered to have a holy convocation. 2 through 7, but on the first day you have a holy convocation. On the 8th day, we get together and have a holy convocation. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. Go ahead.
And ye shall do no servile work therein.
No servile work. That means it's a Sabbath day. Only work you can do is pertain to what we're doing here today, feasting. Skip down to verse 39. Let's read it again. Go ahead.
Also in the 15th day of the 7th month.
Same day as today. Go ahead.
When ye have gathered in the fruit of the land.
Notice it's after you done gathered in, because it's pointing to the end gathering. Go ahead.
Ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days.
He said 7 days again, because he going to end it, then he going to take you to a new place. If he stopped there, you would just figure the tabernacle was 7 days, but he don't stop there, do he? You're going to keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. Now what?
On the first day shall be a Sabbath.
That's today. But what about next Wednesday when we come back? Go ahead.
And on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
Oh, now he mentioned the 8th day again, didn't he? See, you're going to complete something in 7, then you're going to really have a brand new beginning. You're going to go to the 8th day. Because 7 represents completion. So 8 got to be taking you to something brand new. When you get back to 8, you back at a beginning, but it's going to be a new beginning. So the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. That's why we're going to be back next week. But now let's go to Acts 18, because the first thing people say is that, oh yeah, that was good for back then, but we're in the New Testament, we got some new stuff. Look, they're not understanding that right at all. They didn't let somebody hoodwink them. So we're going to go to the New Testament and see if we find any semblance of some people keeping what we keeping here today. Acts 18, and we're going to pick it up at verse 18. Acts 18 and verse 18. Go ahead.
And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed this into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. Okay, now Paul was traveling around a lot. So now he's traveling around through this place. Go ahead. And he came to Ephesus and left them there. But he himself entered into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. Oh, he went in and reasoned with the Jews. Some fellow Israelites. But go ahead. When they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not. Why not? Go ahead. But bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. But I will return again unto you, if God will. And he sailed from Ephesus. Okay, so now Paul refused to continue preaching to them even when they wanted him to stay. He refused to continue preaching to them. Why? Because of what we're doing here today. God's holy festival. See, if it was done away with, Paul wouldn't be so concerned about it that he's dropping everything to observe it, would he? No, sir. So somebody is misleading somebody, pulling the wool over somebody's eye when they tell them these feasts are no more in the New Testament. Look, we read in the New Testament,
Actually, this is this feast that they talk about. It don't name it, but we know it's this feast because they run in a cycle. Because when you go to the 20th chapter, he talk about the next feast that come around in the cycle, which was Pentecost. Which was unleavened bread. Acts 20 and verse 7. Or 20 and 6. 6 and 7, right up in there. Then after that, verse 16 in the 20th chapter, he talk about the next one, which is Pentecost. But either way, even if you don't know it's this feast, we know it got to be one of the three, right?
That's right.
We know for sure it's not Christmas, right? You can't even make that lie up. Because people might, well, I don't know what day. People always have a problem when it comes to doing what the Lord say do. They even start questioning. When you start talking about the feast, see, I don't know how you can figure that out. The Feast of Tabernacles, when you do that and all that. Look, you ain't never questioned when you celebrate Easter. Somebody told you to take your backside to church on this Sunday and called it Easter. You ain't questioned it at all. You went straight, follow what they did, what they said do. But when we talk about what's in the Bible, that's too difficult for you. Oh, I can't figure out tabernacles, and I ain't got time to figure out what to do, when to do it. Look, it's right here in the Bible. Paul had time. Verse 21 said, but he bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. We know it wasn't no feast coming in Jerusalem called Christmas or Easter, right? What feast was it? It was this feast, the Feast of Tabernacles. But Paul was observing it. So it wasn't done away with. John 7. Let's see what Jesus did. Everybody say, let's be like Jesus. Let's see what he did. John 7. See, Paul did what we doing here today. He was dropping everything to observe the feast of the Lord. That's why it's a shame. You hear the choir was singing that nice song. Maybe they're singing again when we start feasting. But anyway, they were singing a song about at the table, it's going on. Now that's a famous song. They need to be ashamed of singing that song. Whoever made it need to be ashamed of themselves. Because they know they weren't thinking about the feast of the Lord. Well, maybe they were, but they ain't letting nobody know. But see, that show you how people take little symbols out of the Bible. They take something out of the Bible and make a song about it, but they really don't follow it. Yeah, we're going to ask the choir to come back up at the end and do that, okay? See, we don't mind a little singing too. We just going to make sure we read the Bible in between. John 7 and 1. Go ahead.
After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him.
But nobody even talk about that. People was trying to kill Jesus. Religious people was trying to kill him because he was out of the norm. He was a renegade preacher. He wasn't in the norm at all. They was headhunting Jesus. Everybody knew it, to his own brothers and them started talking crazy to him, his family members. That's a shame, boy. Go ahead.
Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand.
Now somebody say, well, it is the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles. That's what they call it because it became synonymous with Israel or the Jews because that's who celebrate. So that's the way it looked to the other nations because they said, well, that's what the Jews do. But we know who it really belonged to, don't we?
That's right. We
know it came directly, not by way, some kind of way. It came directly from God, didn't it?
That's right.
And the Bible says it's God's feast, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, he did give it to Israel. But whose is it? It's God's. So we know who it's really talking about. We know who ordained it when it said, now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacle was at hand. They was observing this feast. This the New Testament. Let's see about Jesus. Verse 3.
His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence, and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the work that thou doest.
See, they really didn't mean that. They really had jokes. They was being funny. They had jokes because we read at verse 1, it said the Jews sought to kill him, right? See, so they was trying to be funny because Jesus was laying low because the people were looking for him. So they trying, well, man, go ahead. That's what they tell them. Go ahead up, everybody can see what you're doing. Because they didn't understand that it was supposed to be like that. They thought it must be something wrong. People trying to kill him. He must be wrong. No, he was right. When you doing it right, people not going to like it. Amen. So they tried to be funny. They said that our disciples also see the works that they do. He told them a few things, but let's skip down to verse 8 the same time, because he did eventually go up to Jerusalem to this feast. He just did it a little different than they wanted him to do it. Go ahead.
Go ye up unto this feast.
Now he told them. See, they was mocking him a little bit. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Let everybody see you. Knowing that these people looking for him to kill him. So they might have turned him in. He would have went with them. See, they was on their way. Telling him to come with them. He like, look, go ahead. You go on up to this feast. Go ahead.
I go not up yet unto this feast.
He didn't say he wasn't going, did he? He said, I go not up yet to this feast. But Jesus, here it is in the Bible, Jesus getting ready to celebrate this feast that we celebrate. So we're in good company, right?
That's right.
He said, I go not, he made sure he told him, I go not up yet unto this feast. Why?
For my time is not yet full come.
See, he knew it wasn't time for him to die, so he wasn't going to put himself in harm's way. He wasn't going to go openly. Verse 9.
When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee.
See, he stayed there, verse 10.
But when his brethren were gone,
see, he let them go. They probably would have snitched on him. Yeah, he over there in the buggy. They were looking, where's your brother at? Oh, he back there in the buggy. They would have killed him. So he knew not to hang out with them. Sometimes you can't hang out with people, even in your own family. He said, but when his brethren were gone up, what happened?
Then went he also up unto the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret.
See, he was wise. He didn't go up with them, but he still went up to the feast, not openly, but he went in secret. Now skip down to verse 14. Let's see what happened.
Now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and taught.
See, now once he got up there, they might have caught him on the way. Wasn't going to be that many people. His brother and them probably would have turned him in. But once he got up there in the midst of all them people, he wasn't worried. Because they were scared to do something in front of all them people. Because people accepted him as a prophet. So once he got there, but what did he do? In the midst of the feast, in the middle of the feast, he went in the temple and taught. So now here Jesus is at the Feast of Tabernacles, right?
That's right.
Skip down, and he's teaching there in the temple. Skip down to verse 37, because this is the last day, which is we're going to celebrate next Wednesday. Go ahead.
In the last day, that great day of the feast.
Oh, see, the last day. What day is this last day? That's the one, the 8th day. Because this feast ends on the 8th day, not the 7th day, don't it?
That's right.
So, but what feast is it? It's Tabernacles, right? In the last day, that great day of the feast. Go ahead.
Jesus stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me.
So he stayed for the whole feast. Here it is, Jesus observing not Christmas and Easter, but Feast of Tabernacles. Let's go to John 11. And we're going to wrap it up. John 11. So we shouldn't let people tell us it don't matter to the people in the New Testament. Paul was keeping the feast, and the one everybody said they believe in Jesus, he was observing the Feast of Tabernacles. Because it has a great meaning. It's pointing us to the end. Isaiah 56, John 11, then we're going to Isaiah 56. John 11 and verse 47. Go ahead.
Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we?
Boy, they wanted him. Now, who wanted him? Not the common street people, but the religious people wanted him dead. They wanted his head on a platter like John the Baptist. They even offered up money. That's what they eventually did. They paid Judas to deliver him up. They show you how bad they wanted him. You know, you really want somebody, you put a hit out on him, right? That's what they did to Jesus. They put a hit out on Jesus. You mean Jesus? Somebody put a hit on Jesus for what? What did he do so bad? Tell the truth. Preach and live the truth. See, that's why we are no different. We reading out the Bible that everybody got, and they don't like us. They're going to call us a cult. And we reading out their Bible. So, here's when they was ready to put a hit here. It said, then gathered the chief priests, the religious people, and the Pharisees, the big sect of Jesus' time, the big denomination, so to speak. They had a meeting on Jesus, a council, right? And said what?
What do we? For this man doeth many miracles.
Boy, Jesus was making them pull their hair. He said, man, what are we going to do? Because he telling the truth, and every truth he tell, make show that they lie. Make them look like they ready to pull their hair. What are we going to do? And made it worse, he doing miracles, proving that he got some power from God. That's backing up the truth that he's speaking. Go ahead.
If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
They said, look, we can't have everybody believing on this cat. We cannot let this go by. We can't stand idly by where he continue to take people out of our congregation with this teaching he got. See, because when you lying, you can be in cahoots with a bunch of liars. Different denominations, they all get together. They all got together on Jesus. Different denominations came together to try to thwart him. So they said, look, if we let him alone, he going to take everything we got. He going to mess our good thing up. Go ahead. Because that's all preachers got now. You know that's what they got. They got a good thing. That's why they even go into the ministry. They looking for a good thing. But we here to mess it up too. Go ahead.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place in the nation.
They said, look, the Romans going to see we can't handle stuff, and they going to come and take away what we got going. We running this thing. We can't let him keep making us look bad. 49.
And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all.
He said, look, stop all the chit chat. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, as people say. Y'all don't know nothing at all. I'm going to tell you what we got to do, and we need to get ready to do it now. Go ahead.
Nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not.
See, he said it's expedient. He said, don't y'all know that it's better for us to kill this one man than he mess up our nation? See, they were just hypocrites. They didn't want their good thing to end. Because they living good, playing big shots on the people, but they lying to the people like 99.9% of the preachers doing nowadays. They living good off the people, getting honor and prestige from the people, so somebody like us come along telling the truth, making them look bad, and taking money out their pocket. So that's what he was talking about. He said, look, we got to kill him because he's messing up the whole nation. That's from his perspective, by telling the truth. So that's what he said from his perspective. So he said, at verse 50, you consider speeding for us that one man should die for the people and that the whole nation perish not. Verse 51. See, he didn't really, Jesus did die for the nation. He was a sin offering, but he didn't mean that in a good way. He mean we need to kill this dude before he mess us up. Verse 51.
And this spake he not of himself.
See, he didn't mean it in a good way. But he actually told the truth. See, every now and then the preachers tell the truth on accident. That's why I ain't surprised. Somebody said, well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He told the truth on accident. He wasn't trying to. Like Brother Fred said, Isaiah said a long time ago, he said, even a mule catch a fly when his mouth is open. So he said, this spake he not of himself, but what?
But being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation.
See, that's what Jesus had to do, though. He had to die for Israel. Then he can come back and save them in the end. He died for Israel, but is it just limited to Israel? Let's see, 52.
And not for that nation only.
See, now, Caiaphas wasn't saying this. John was saying this. He said not only did he have to die for Israel, and not for that nation only, but what?
But that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad.
Oh, and that also he should gather together in one. See, it's going to be one fold before it's over with. We all going to be doing the same thing. Gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. That's why this is called a Feast of Ingathering. It's pointing to this time. But now, let's go to Isaiah 56 now. Because again, you got Israelites saying, well, it's just for Israel, it ain't for other people. They get mad at us, even when we be on TV. And the camera be on a Gentile, somebody from another nation, they be calling us up, talking about what they doing in there. Because they got some sense, unlike you. Isaiah 56. But they claim to believe the Bible. But they say in the Bible said, get rid of all the strangers and only Israel going to be saved. That ain't nowhere in this Bible. Now, and most of them, a lot of them reject the New Testament. Some of them just say they believe the Old Testament, but you can kill that lie in the Old Testament. We're going to kill it right here. You say you're Old Testament Hebrew, but you thinking God going to destroy all the other nationalities and only save Israel. We here to show you otherwise. God going to gather not just Israel, but people from all nations that believe like Israel. Isaiah 56 and 6. Go ahead.
Also the sons of the strangers that join themselves to the Lord.
Also the sons of who? Not the Israelites, right? Just the other nations, strangers. That covers Gentiles, Hamites, all nationalities. Also the sons of the strangers that join themselves to the Lord. Go ahead.
To serve him.
See, he said they got opportunity to join to the Lord and serve him. Israel was automatic. But also the sons of the stranger that join on to serve the Lord. To do what?
And to love the name of the Lord. To be his servant. Everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it.
Oh, they can come keep the Sabbath too, right? Go ahead.
And taking hold of my covenant.
And they can take hold of the covenant as a whole that God made with Israel. What are he going to do for them if they do the right thing, like he said there, verse 7?
Even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer.
See, this is future. Remember, we just read he's going to gather in one all the children of God that were scattered abroad. This is future. Now he's talking about the non-Israelites here. He said, even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. What else?
Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar.
Oh, you're going to be doing it when Jesus come back and fix this thing right, gather Israel and others that believe and straighten this earth out. You're going to be doing the sacrifices the right way. And even the Gentiles going to offer up sacrifices. He said their offerings and burnt offerings and sacrifice shall be accepted upon his altar. Israel going to do, the Levites going to do it, but the people brought the offerings to the Levites to make. Why?
For my house shall be called an house of prayer for all people.
That must have said just for Israel. Did it say just for Israel?
So.
No, it said his house shall be called a house of prayer for who? All people. That's absolute, ain't it? Somebody better wake up quick. Verse 8.
The Lord God, which gathereth the outcasts of Israel.
Now that's the title of the lesson. Israel's gathering from the four corners. We saw that, right? He's going to gather Israel from all over the world, the four winds, like Jesus said. So that's what he's talking about here. Verse 8, the Lord God which gathered the outcasts of Israel. But is it just that he's going to gather Israel? Let's see.
Yet will I gather others to him besides those that are gathered unto him.
Oh, he's going to gather some others, isn't he? He's going to gather Israel from the four corners, but he got some others coming with him, don't he? That's clear. Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16. Flip over to Jeremiah 16, because it's amazing people don't believe what's in the Bible, because this is going to conquer the world. It ain't nothing as magnificent as what the Lord is getting ready to do when he bring Israel back from the four corners and all the believers and straighten this world out. Everybody going to recognize when it's over, because he's going to kill up all the wicked. Everybody going to recognize. He's going to tell you about it. And again, the only thing comparable to this is when he brought Israel out of Egypt, and that's not doing a good job, because this is more magnificent, because Israel is scattered all over the world. So it's even a greater accomplishment that God is going to accomplish when he do it in the end. That's what this feast is pointing to. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Go ahead.
Therefore, behold, the days come, said the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them.
Oh, see, he pointing you. He comparing it to Egypt. He said, look, this going to be so great, you ain't going to think about what Moses did when he brought Israel out of Egypt. That's what he's trying to tell you. Right now, that's the greatest thing God did as far as delivering Israel, delivering a nation, right? We ain't seen nothing like that. It's so great. We thousands of years removed from that, and they still talk about it on TV, don't they? They still have the Ten Commandments. They still commemorating that. They do it every year. Because they ain't got nothing else greater than that to talk about, do they? As far as God doing something for a nation, particularly Israel, right? They ain't got nothing else, so that'll be on TV, wouldn't it? But in the future, they will have something else to make a movie about. What he said, therefore, behold, days come, said the Lord, that there should no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land. In other words, that's going to be low on the totem pole. That's going to be on the back burner. You ain't going to even think about what the Lord did back in Egypt. But what's going to be at the top of the list to make a movie about? Verse 15, but the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all lands. That's why the title is Israel's gathering from the four corners. That's all lands, isn't it?
That's right.
From the land of the north and from all lands, whither he had driven them. And where he going to take them?
And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers.
See, taking them back to the promised land, not up to heaven either. Go ahead, 16.
Behold, I will send for many fishes, said the Lord.
Go ahead.
And they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain, and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rock.
See, that's what we starting to do now. We fishing and hunting for Israel, but the Lord going to bring them, every last one of them back. Even if they don't make it into the promised land, they still got to go as far as to the wilderness. He ain't going to leave none of them out there. Skip down to verse 19. Let's see what the other people are going to see. The other people that got some sense from other nationalities. See, you're going to have people from other nationalities think this is bogus, think something's wrong with it, but the ones that got some understanding, like you even got some now, this is what they're going to admit to the Lord. Verse 19.
O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth.
Oh, the Gentiles. That's some other nations, right? This is the strangers, the non-Israelites. He said they're going to come unto thee from the ends of the earth. And they're going to admit something to God once they see all the mighty stuff that God doing for Israel. And how to really worship the God of Israel like we doing here, keeping a feast that's in the Bible, the Feast of Tabernacles or Ingathering. But when they see all that the Lord do, they're going to say, whoa, wait a minute. They're going to come from all over. That lets you know he ain't just saving Israel, is he? And what they going to say?
And shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit.
They're going to say, we didn't even know. Our fathers inherited some lies. You know what one of them lies is? Easter is a lie.
That's right.
Christmas is a lie.
Definitely.
Going to heaven is a lie.
Yes, sir.
Praying to saints is a lie. We can go on and on about the lies that the world has inherited. But these people are going to be smart enough to admit it. They're going to say, surely our fathers inherited lies, vanity, and things where there is no profit because they made up some false gods and we've been honored. Go ahead, 20.
Shall a man make gods unto himself, and these are no gods?
He said that's what they done done. Man had made gods up himself. Go ahead.
Therefore, behold, I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know my hand and my might.
See, when he gathered Israel and put a hurting on the wall, he going to cause them to know because Jesus is coming back to do it. Remember we read the first scripture, the sky rolling back, the sun and moon getting dark, the stars falling, and the Lord coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. He going to cause them to know his hand and his mighty saying. Because he's going to have to beat the world into submission. He's going to bring Israel back and all the other nations that believe. He's going to save them, and it's going to be some rejoicing on this earth. After all, because thy kingdom would have been come. He said, I will this once cause them to know mine hand and mine might. And what else?
And they shall know that my name is the Lord.
See, they're going to know that he running. Zechariah 14. We just about done. Zechariah 14. We're going to see when he come with this mighty hand. Zechariah 14. And verse 3. Zechariah 14 and 3. And when he do this, all the lies that we have inherited, he going to destroy them, and people going to know the truth, and they going to honor the truth if they got good sense. Zechariah 14 and 3. Go ahead.
Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations.
Well, he said they going to know his hand and his might. He going this last time, he going to cause them to know that he ain't playing. See, people think he playing. They think the Bible is a fairy tale instead of all the lies they got. He said the Lord going to go forth and fight against the nations. Go ahead.
As when he fought in the day of battle.
See, that's when he took Israel to the promised land. God fought then. He just let Joshua and them do it, but God was fighting. Well, he going to come in person and fight. Jesus himself going to come. Go ahead, verse 4.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
See, Acts 1 tell you this is exactly where Jesus left, and he coming back the same place. He going to touch down where he lifted off from, the Mount of Olives. Coming with the clouds and his feet. People say, oh, he ain't going to never come all the way back. Oh, yeah, he coming all the way back. He said his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, right? Which is where?
Which is before Jerusalem on the east.
See, he coming to take over. The trumpet's going to be blowing, and he is taking over the world. But good news for us is he going to be gathering his lost sheep. And all believers. Go ahead.
And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, toward the east and toward the west.
Go ahead.
And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall be moved toward the north, and half of it toward the south.
There's going to be an earthquake, mountain splitting, everything getting shook up. But here he come now, and he going to cause them to know his hand and his might. Go ahead, verse 5.
And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountain, for the valley of the mountain shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee, like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee.
See, the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee, he said. The Lord is coming. And he bringing all the saints, he said. Now, skip down to verse 9. Skip down to verse 9. We're going to ask the people that's preparing for the feast to give us a little time to finish the lesson. Because I see a little too much activity. We're going to get to the food in a minute. Verse 9. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall be king over all the earth.
See, the Lord going to be king over all the earth. He about to take it over now. And he going to set his true worship in the earth. Go ahead.
In that day shall there be one Lord and his name one.
It's going to be one Lord and his name one. But remember, he said he going to cause them to know his hand and his might. He got to beat them into submission like he did Pharaoh. It's going to be greater than that. And he gathered Israel back. And let's see some of the damage he going to do. Just a little bit. Verse 12.
And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem.
You mean the Lord going to smite the people? Go ahead.
Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet.
Oh, because he coming in flaming fire. This going to be some awesome stuff. You're going to know who running after this. He going to kill practically everybody. Isaiah 24 verse 6 said the earth going to be burned. There's going to be few men left. Well, this is why he said their flesh shall consume away while they stand on their feet. That's some quick fire, isn't it? You ain't even got enough time to fall. The flesh dripping off of you because he came through with that fire on you. And you just start dripping before you can hit the ground. Go ahead.
And their eyes shall consume away in their holes.
That's some heat, isn't it? Go ahead.
And their tongue shall consume away in their mouth.
See, that's what he's talking about. He's going to cause them to know his hand and his might. He got to do this. Now you're going to know you got to do it his way from now on. You got to do it his way from now on. And what's one of his festivals that you're going to have to keep? The one we keeping today. Skip down to verse 16 and read it.
And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations.
That means they didn't get the dripping flesh from the fire, right? This the ones that's left. They flesh obviously didn't drip off of them. They saw a whole lot of people with some dripping flesh. But they wasn't one of them because they survived it. See, the Lord gonna save some. But he's saving them so we can all serve him the right way. Everyone that's left of all the nations that came against Jerusalem, what they going to do from now on?
Shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts.
Because he's going to be back on earth in Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
Oh, they're not keeping Christmas, is it? You're going to forget about that. You're not keeping Easter. To keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Go ahead.
And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain.
Even upon them shall be no rain. If you be stupid and don't want to do it, he ain't going to let it rain. 18.
And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, and that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
He's going to smite them all that don't keep the Feast of Tabernacles. What we doing right here today, so we know we on the right path. How can you ignore this and tell me it don't matter about keeping the Lord's feast and he's telling you what's going to happen in the future to people that don't? Verse 19.
This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
Sound like he wants you to observe this, don't it? One more place, Deuteronomy 14. Deuteronomy 14. And we're going to ask the choir, they can start coming. Because they're going to sing that song one more time to lead us into the festivities. So come on, won't you come? I got to get some of that preacher stuff in. Make me feel like a real preacher. Come on, won't you come? Can we have the choir come now? Won't you come? Deuteronomy 14. They can come right now. Come on. Don't you want to come? Deuteronomy 14. Let's show you, boy, them preachers be putting on the show, don't they? Just running game. Trying to play on somebody's emotions. Got time for that folly. Deuteronomy 14. And we're going to pick it up at verse 22. Because this is what we here to do. And the Lord told you, now that we understand what the Feast of Tabernacles is about, the Lord told you to enjoy it because you recognizing some great events that's about to take place. Deuteronomy 14 and verse 22. Deuteronomy 14 and verse 22. Go ahead.
Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year.
See, that's all the preachers want to read about, something to get them some money. But see, this wasn't to get some preachers some money. This was to enjoy the Lord's festivals, the 3 festivals that he gave. Go ahead, verse 23.
And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God.
See, we getting ready to eat. We can't go to Jerusalem, but we can eat where we at for the time being until the Lord fix it. But you eat, and we eating to honor the Lord. We ain't just eating for any old reason. We ain't just decide to go fishing today. Like people say, go on fishing. Well, we gone feasting in honor of the Lord. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, to place his name there. Go ahead.
The tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thy oil, and the firstling of thy herds, and of thy flock, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always.
See, this showing you when you honoring this, we learning to fear the Lord, to obey him, because he's going to teach you more about him when you start to do his will. That you mayest learn to fear the Lord your God. How long? Always. But now he didn't leave no stone unturned. He said, look, if you couldn't bring all your herds up there to feast, I got a remedy for that. Verse 24. Go ahead.
And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it.
Well, it's doubly. See, he was talking about it being too long when you was in the land of Israel. Well, we know good and well it's too long for us because we are way across the waters now. So we can't even make it, but we can do the best we can here. But even he had a remedy. If you was in the land and it was too long, you could still make it to the place, but you couldn't take all your stuff. So this is what you would do. You do what? Or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to say his name there. Which is Jerusalem. Go ahead. When the Lord thy God have blessed thee. Then what you do with all your livestock and cattle and herd, what you supposed to do? Then shalt thou turn it into money. Just get the money. Sell the stuff and take some money and do what? And bind up the money in thy hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. So now you go to that place. Go ahead. And when you get there, what you do? And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. See, we doing that here because we can't even make it to the place. So we doing that here. We bestowing money for whatsoever our soul lusted after. And he named some good food. Go ahead. For oxen. Or for sheep. And some drink, right? What? Or for wine. Or for strong drink. Oh, so drinking couldn't be a sin. God was telling people to sin right here in the Holy Bible. Right. Drinking is not a sin. If you can't handle drink, you don't need to drink. If you're too young to drink, you don't need to drink. Like I don't drink. I'm too young and I can't handle it. Either. But I can't teach that it's a sin because he's telling people that they can drink, right? And it wasn't no grape juice, brother. So don't get that out your head. People start telling that lie. Oh, that was just grape wine. It wasn't firm. They just make up lies all the time. He said, look, for wine, and if wine was grape juice, I wonder what this was. What did he say? Or what else? Or for strong drink. Or for strong drink. I guess that was orange juice. No, it was wine and whiskey. And obviously, it got you drunk if you drank too much of it because he warned you about getting drunk in the Bible, right? So, quit fooling yourself. Go ahead. Or for whatsoever thy soul desires. So in the end, what you doing on these festivals, which we getting ready to do on this one right here? And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God. And what else? And thou shalt rejoice, thou and thy household. So that's what we getting ready to do. Hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.